Hello, my name is Spencer. This is an update video for Witchfire for the Ghost Galleon update. This is not going to be a comprehensive review of what is in this update, but more of a collection of complaints that I have, some issues that I've found, bugs, glitches, stuff like that. So we're going to jump right into the things that I think need to be improved in further updates. There is a heavy spell that creates an ice bubble around you. It's supposed to freeze enemies that come in contact with it and block all projectiles until the bubble breaks. However, on numerous occasions, things have gotten through and hit me anyway. I've had swordsmen go straight through and kill me. Then, after he was fully through the bubble, then he got frozen. This happened multiple times. 2 swordsmen went through the bubble and damaged me. A grenadier has hit me through the bubble too. Enemies and projectiles are getting through. It doesn't work right and should be fixed. The other thing that's happening is that enemies that were frozen unfreeze, move out of the bubble, and then back into it a second time, but they don't get frozen again, which feels wrong to me. I think what should happen is that if an enemy gets unfrozen on the bubble, they should stagger back outside of the bubble, and then when they make contact with it, they get frozen again, but they're still doing damage to that bubble, so if you have a lot of enemies doing that, it's going to break that bubble a lot faster. I'm aware that the enemies in this clip had some kind of protective barrier around them, but I don't think they should be immune from being frozen. They don't take damage, but they should still get frozen. I don't know how to describe this clip. There were multiple weird things happening. First of all, I had some kind of freeze effect on my screen. I don't know what was happening to me, but this musketman walked up to me, didn't attack me, didn't shoot me, and just was staring at the ground in front of me. I don't know what was going on. This happened one other time. It's very strange, but the point I wanted to make here, the other point I wanted to make here, was that I still feel that the musketmen are too aggressive in terms of they will make a beeline for you and get right into melee and not even bother trying to shoot you. I still think that happens too often. I've noticed some other things with the AI acting strangely, and I know I'm not attacking in this clip. I was testing something for this. I was testing what counts as a mistake, which I'll get into later in the video, but there were 2 swordsmen here. I'm engaging with this one, and then the other one, you can barely see him, but he's running off up the hill over there and doesn't engage with me. He's part of a hunting party. He's supposed to be coming after me. And I've noticed this happening multiple times, many times when I play the game, that enemies with hunting parties in particular do this, where they'll completely ignore me and they'll either run away from me or they'll do what that swordsman was doing and looking straight at me the whole time, but they're backpedaling and running away from me, and now the swordsman has come back and engaged with me. So I don't know what's going on with that, but it happens often enough that it's noticeable, so they should definitely look at what's going on with the AI of the hunting parties and why they're not always engaging with me. I want to briefly talk about the UI and the HUD. There is no UI or HUD scaling, which I think that there should be. I don't know why that there isn't. If we zoom in on the minimap here, the icons over here are incredibly small. There will be times where there's a mission objective that shows up on the minimap, but it's far enough away from you that the icon is on the outer edge of the minimap. It'll be a tiny and very skinny exclamation point that is difficult to see. So I think that by default, this should probably be increased, or at least there should be that UI scaling, the HUD scaling, so that you can more easily see things on that minimap. I'm noticing from looking at this footage now that the minimap has a transparency to it, and I think players should be able to adjust that transparency. It can be a little difficult to see what's on the minimap depending on what the lighting is in the game, what other effects are going on. If I want to make the minimap in the HUD like a solid object that's not disrupted by what's going on the screen, I should be able to do that. They added a merchant into the game as well, and sometimes he shows up out here. He changes positions, which I find kind of annoying, but sometimes he's there. And you know what? Before we get to the merchant, one thing I want to mention before we go downstairs, it didn't used to cost gold to do research. Now it does. I don't know how I feel about that. I know that they're trying to make gold more useful, but now you really need to be picking up items when you're on the missions. But we'll go downstairs and try to find out where the merchant is. He even changes locations when he's down here. Sometimes he's not here. Sometimes he's there. The first time I saw him, he was in this other room. It's also very dark down. There he is. The first time that I saw him, he was over here. So he changes 4 locations, which is just kind of annoying. You got to search for him. But if you are not collecting items during the missions, you could just get Witchfire and buy gold with that. And then you can complete the research that way. So that's a viable option. One item that I'd like to see that I don't think is in here, I've checked all these items, is I would like to see a lure item for dealing with groups of enemies or just one enemy that you really don't want to put up with. I'd love to be able to get something, throw it, and attract enemies to that location. That would be really, really nice. I've noticed a few times now that the Warden of the Dead, who wanders around the map, doesn't seem to do a circuit like he used to anymore, will occasionally get stuck. I think he's stuck on or maybe inside of the cliff over here. He's been there the whole game, even though I've been around the rest of the map and cleared out, I think, all the other groups of enemies at this point, and he will not move. One other thing I wanted to mention about the Warden is that he seems to move much slower than he did before. Even when he's not stuck, he putzes around the entire map and takes a really long time to move. He can be hard to deal with because of this. There may be an area that you want to get to, but he's moving so slowly, and this is where having that lure item would be nice, to be able to throw that and attract him in a different direction so that you can get by would be extremely helpful. And the Warden is not the only one that has gotten stuck before. I was trying to clear out a group of enemies here, and there was one enemy left. And the only reason I knew that he was here was there was some noise that I was hearing, but there was also that effect on the screen over here. And even when I was able to kill him somehow, the crystal I couldn't interact with unless I came down to the bottom of the cliff here. So I'm not sure what's going on with enemies getting stuck, but this should be looked at. I mentioned earlier that there are hunting parties. Hunting parties are groups of enemies that show up periodically throughout the game looking for you, instead of only having the groups of enemies on the map that you have to deal with. And over time, there will be more of them, and they will be stronger the longer that you're on the map. I don't know how much I like this. It does add more variety to the gameplay, but it does add onto this dogpiling problem that I think that the games have, because it feels like as soon as you finish with one hunting party, there's another one right behind it coming after you, and you can get absolutely hammered with groups of enemies on a map. You can have a group of enemies that's marked on the map that you're dealing with. Then a hunting party can show up. Potentially a second hunting party might show up. Also the portals that you, or the one of the portals that you can escape out of, that can spew out enemies, so they can show up. The mini boss on the Scarlet Coast, at least, the Drowned Captain, can show up, and you can get hit by a calamity all at once if you've made too many mistakes. So the game just can really beat you over the head, and that doesn't feel nice. I understand that this is a difficult game. I accept that. However, the game really does hammer you pretty often with all these groups of enemies all at once. And it doesn't help that the calamities can happen on top of it because, and I'm going to get into this, it's still not completely clear to me what a mistake is. It's nice that they have a mistake counter in the upper left so you know when you've made one, but it's still not clear what a mistake is. I drop down the ledge here and I get hit 4 times by these minor enemies, and then that counts as a mistake. Now my focus meter was full when I started, but it didn't count as a mistake when I got hit the first time and lost focus. After that, I was going for a little while and I was not taking any hits. There's a musket man right around here. I get hit by him, and I believed that was the first mistake that I made. After this, I didn't get hit for quite a while. I went for a while here, killing multiple enemies. I cleared out this group of enemies right here. Everything seemed fine, no mistakes happening at all. And then I did take a hit. Here again, my focus meter is full. I get hit, not a mistake. I again went for a little bit here and I didn't take any hits. I did end up taking another hit here from a musket man, and that was hit number 3 by my count. I again went for a short amount of time before getting hit again. I got hit once by a grenadier right here, which is a major enemy, and then almost immediately got hit again by another grenadier. I'll show you another example. I end up getting hit by an ice bomb here, then I get shot, then I get hit with a second ice bomb, and the last 2 happen in rapid succession. I get hit again, and that's 4 times by 4 minor enemies. Now I want you to listen what happens when I get hit for the 4th time. I purposefully walk into this trap to test this. There's the mistake, upper left-hand corner. Now listen to this clip I had from previously in the video. I made the mistake, but no sound was played, which, if that happens when you're playing and there's a lot going on the screen, you're really not looking in that upper left-hand corner, you may not even realize that you had made a mistake until later. Let's take a look at this clip again. I get hit twice by a swordsman, which is a major enemy, and that ends up counting as a mistake, these 2 hits from this swordsman. Here again, I made a mistake, but the sound didn't play. Then the next mistake did play a sound. I then tried to destroy this power source for the protective device. This is when I was still trying to figure out how these worked. And I take damage 3 times because I didn't do it right. And then a little bit later here, I try to cast a spell, but it's on cooldown, and that counts as a mistake. After this, I was spamming trying to use a spell, even though I knew it was on cooldown, just to see if it would count as mistakes. And looking at the footage here, it seemed like getting flashbanged counted as a mistake. I got flashbanged twice, and I got hit once or twice. I was counting 3 hits between the flashbangs and the actual hits. So Mistakes from minor enemies seem to be 3 to 4 hits. Now, I can be wrong about this, but the way that I cover games on this channel is that I get a game, I play it, and I draw my own conclusions based on what is in the game. I don't look up information about any of the games that I cover here. I'm not looking at reviews. I'm not looking at what other people are saying on Reddit or Twitter or wherever. I use the measuring stick of you weren't always able to look up things on the internet and find answers, so games had to contain all the information that you need unless you had a friend who also played the game. With all that said, what I gather about this game is that mistakes are made up of 4 points, let's say. So if you get hit by a minor enemy, that's 1 point. And when you rack up 4, that's the mistake. When you get hit by a major enemy, like a swordsman or a grenadier, that counts as 2 points. So you get hit twice by that type of enemy, that's a mistake. I have shown earlier in this video that you can get hit with your focus bar full, or even partially filled, and it doesn't always count as a mistake because breaking focus doesn't matter. What it comes down to is counting the number of times that you've been hit in your head and by which types of enemies, because that seems to be what matters. I don't think it should work that way because you can go a long period of time between the hits, but it still counts towards a mistake. But I would consider a mistake something that you make right then and there, not a meter that fills up over time. And if you have a full focus bar and you get hit, that should count as a mistake because you were getting a bunch of kills in a row, not taking any hits, you were focused, you were locked in, then you took a hit, lost your focus. That should be a mistake right then and there, not one on a list of things that fills that bar up immediate. That's a mistake. This is my real last point about the mistakes here. Stare at the top left of the screen at that mistake meter and look at the second dot from the right. When I get flashed, that dot flashes white just for a brief second. It's normally grayed out, but then it flashes. I think that the game is counting the number of mistakes, and it is showing you visually when that happens, but that meter is so small, the majority of people playing this game will never notice that. The last thing I want to talk about are these protective devices, which you can see it's shimmering in the air right here, but once you shoot it, it gets revealed, and what you have to do is you have to find the 2 power sources that this has and destroy them. There's one in front of it and there's one in the back of it. You will hear that clicking noise that you're hearing right now, and that's the little thing that you're looking for. Now, I would shoot this thing and take damage from it for some reason, which had me very confused. And it wasn't until I was looking at a different gatekeeper on the castle map where I was experimenting with it and trying to figure out how this thing worked that I realized that the main gatekeeper device has to be flashing when you shoot the power source, which is not something that I realized at first. Most of the time when I was playing this game before I really started looking at these, I just avoided them because I approached it once, it shot me and killed me, and I said, you know, okay, I don't really know what to do with this thing, and I'm just going to avoid it. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but in retrospect, I probably could have jumped up on top of that little wooden structure where the power source is, looked down towards where the gatekeeper is, and probably been able to see it when it's flashing so I can shoot the totem when I need to. The only thing I would say is that I want to keep track of these when they add new maps to the game and really look at them and make sure that wherever the power source is, you can get an angle where that power source and the gatekeeper are in the same frame, and you can destroy the power source at the right time instead of trying to shoot it at the wrong time and then taking damage. There's one last thing that have noticed every time that I play this practically, is that the mouse doesn't always work. And I don't think it's my actual mouse. This is the second mouse that I've tried playing this with. And sometimes I'll go to shoot and the gun won't shoot. Other times I will try to aim down the sights and it just doesn't aim down the sights. I have to click multiple times to get it to do either one of those things, and I have gotten killed because of this. This could be a Windows issue. I don't think that it is. Like I said, I've tried 2 different mice. It does this on both of them and only in this game. I play other games. I don't have this problem. I'm using the computer at the desktop, in the browser, whatever. I don't have this problem. I don't know if anybody else is having this happen to them when they're playing Witchfire, where sometimes the left and right mouse button don't work, but I have been noticing this. It's happened quite a few times, and it's pretty irritating. There were other things that I had written down that I wanted to talk about, but it has taken me so long to make this video. I had multiple other games that came out or had updates that I wanted to look at, so this kept getting pushed back and back and back again and again. I like Witchfire, I like where this is going, and hopefully they can address more of the issues that I was having while I was playing the game. I wish that I had more time to go a little bit more in depth here, but I've got a whole list of other games to look at. The month of April hit me like a ton of bricks. I've got other stuff on top of all this that I need to be doing, but thank you for watching.